Hi, everybody. Welcome to the last talk of the hero journey, the last meeting of our journey together. Today, we choose the word listening as a theme for our journey together with Moni Ovadia. As we know, to listen, it's something fundamental to make music. To listen, it is something which can have a very, very large meaning. And of course, we can listen to the sounds, we can listen to rhythms, we can listen to voices, to noises. We can listen to many, many different elements which are in the world, in the nature, and we can listen also inside ourselves. And to be a musician, we need to develop this capacity, this ability to listen inside ourselves. We do believe that to be an actor, we need to develop the same abilities, the same capacities. All these elements are very, very close to the heart to be an actor, to propose on stage something through your own voice. That's why we thought to ask Moni to be with us for the last meeting of our journey. Since as musicians, we need to expand our capacities to express what we feel in the music, what we read in the music, what is written in the music. And an actor does exactly the same, goes through the text deeper and deeper and brings out through his sensibility and capacity something very personal and at the same time very universal and for the whole world. Moni is a dear friend which I know since I think almost 20 years. It was 2000, year 2000, when we met the first time. We had together with our dear friend Pavel Vernikov, which was at that time my teacher and is still my teacher and one of my mentors. Really a beloved figure for me, so important for my musical and human journey. And together with Moni, we traveled to Sicily and other towns in Italy. And of course, I was very young and I was very, very touched from the personality of this man that you will get to know better in a while. And because Moni, as we all know in Italy, maybe some of you coming from outside Italy, they don't know him, but Moni is one of the most brilliant minds that we have in Italy. Is always putting the public opinion in a position to listen and to be ethically involved in the problems of our society. And I do believe that an artist in our days has strongly and deeply this responsibility to make people think, listen, and think to what is important for their life. And of course, Moni works with the theater, in the theater, but is very, very much connected with the music. He developed a wonderful musical theater through the years, with orchestras playing on stage, acting, and creating like a real dream becoming true through the heart of the theater and the music. Moni is always, because he is himself a young person and a young soul is always fascinated from the young generations, and he always is eager to meet young people. I remember 2 years ago in the Histoire du Soldat by Stravinsky, we were touring in Marche region in Italy, and we had a wonderful meeting in the morning for the schools. And he was talking to thousands of young pupils of the schools, and this meeting with them was so important. To me, was so important because I was so touched, and I think also for these young people. So Moni is always eager and open to create new paths and new projects and new visions for the young generations. This also, I think it's a duty and the responsibility of an artist. And that's why we asked Moni to be with us for the last meeting of the MACH Academy in the Hero's Journey. So thank you, Moni, to be here with us. It's really a big pleasure and a big gift that you are giving to all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you for the invitation. Thank you for the beautiful words you dedicated to me. Well, let's say that I define myself a theater performer and a militant for human rights. I don't know if it's more important for me, the first or the second definition, but things have gone always together in my life. Well, actually, I didn't know that I had to speak in English. I would have prepared myself better. Sorry for my preposterous English. But anyway, let's try. I never conceived in my life the possibility of being in performing arts without music, without the dimension of sound, even before music. I started my, let's say, professional activity as a folk singer. I worked with an ethnomusicologist. I made with him field recordings. And so I was deeply involved in the world of traditional music, and not only of Italian traditional music. I come from a family with different origins. I was born in Bulgaria to a Sephardic Jewish family. My grandparents, from the part of my father, were from Turkey, Izmir, and from the part of my mother, from Serbia, Niš. Both Jewish families. And of course, the long journey that my family was made in the past, because my let's say origin comes from the Jews of Spain in the Middle Ages, and then the Jews were, because of the Inquisition, were expulsed from Spain, and they traveled along the Mediterranean Sea. And then they settled first in Italy, in Venice, and then through the commercial activities, they moved to the Ottoman Empire. So I listened to several languages home. My parents spoke, between them Bulgarian, Sephardic, Sephardic Spanish, and my mother spoke a perfect French. My father spoke Turkish. And so I listened to different languages in my early childhood. So the sound became immediately an extremely important element of my, let's say, cultural background, because I think a language is not only the meaning, the sense of a language is given by the meaning and the sound together. That's the reason why I perform my show in different languages. And the sound in a language is main when we consider poetry. But in general, it's we translate books, literature, poetry, but we translate only the meaning. We cannot translate the sound. It's untranslatable. Each language has its own particular music, mood, the mood of the sound. And I was very fond of this idea, of this concept. So music has been always in my life, always. I've been privileged because I listened to music, to classical music, from the very early childhood. My mother, she was an amateur violinist, but she had studied in Bulgaria up to the very, very high level. She studied the Paganini's Capriccios, etc. And she played from time to time home when we were babies. We listened to the concert played by my mother. She played every kind of concert, Mozart, Beethoven, and Mendelssohn, etc. So music was part of our early education. Then I revealed, let's say, an interesting voice since childhood. And so I was in the choirs of the school, and I started to sing in school choirs. And slowly, from this experience, I moved with some friends to a direct experience. We decided, and when I was adolescent, around 14, 15, we tried to set up a musical group. We all of us, we played guitar. I studied classical guitar since 12 years up to 20 almost. I was not particularly talented for the instruments. My relationship with music was mostly cultural, and I expressed myself better singing. But I played guitar some years, and so we started with this group. We had some interesting teacher, some interesting person in school. I studied at the Jewish school of Milano. So I grew up in a very stimulating milieu with people coming from 40 different countries, origins. And this teacher invited us to develop this passion we had for traditional music. He was a traditional fan with a lot of records. And so we started with this group, and we performed as amateurs in, let's say, in festivals or in clubs of the leftist organizations in Italy, Communist Party, Socialist Party. And when the student student movement in 68 burst out, we were, you know, militant musicians and singers. So we were, let's say, connecting the experience of having the passion for music with the necessity to be in this student movement, but with our specificity of being singers and, let's say, musicians. So we sang the song in occasion of the rallies, the folk festivals organized by the leftist organization, and that was a part of my, as performer, was a part of my activity. And so I have been, let's say, I spent a part of my life, of course, I continued my studies. I went to the university, etc. But I felt strongly that my, let's say, talent, if I may say, was for performing arts. Not only music and singing, but theater. And I wanted, I've always desired to invent a sort of musical theater, something that in which music and theater were together. Of course, we have the forms of the opera, contemporary opera, forms of musical theater we know, musical, etc., etc. But what I had in mind was pretty different. I didn't want to practice those kind of experiences. Opera, because I have not the resources to be an opera singer or an opera director. And musical, I was not interested particularly in musical. Yes, I love some musicals, but it was not my cup of tea. I invented, in a way, my cup of tea. Of course, you know, we learn from other people. We are never completely original. So I have seen a lot of theater performances, musical performances, avant-garde stuff. Every kind of experience could inspire my own path, my own way. And eventually, I tried with a show to stage a theater shows, but my actors were not actors, were musicians. But I asked from those musicians to be actors in the same time, not acting as the classical actors, you know, Shakespeare, etc., etc. No, I wanted them to be performers with their instruments, but to live on stage, to express themselves, to act with their faces, to move on stage with the sort of choreographies in which the orchestra was my theatrical company. And I was extremely successful. I was very lucky. I found my, let's say, core inspiration in Yiddish theater. I performed shows based on Yiddish culture and on Yiddish performing arts. I felt strongly after the catastrophe of the Shoah that I had a duty to give a future to what was exterminated almost completely. And so I started to make researches in this field and the music of that world that was almost disappeared in Europe. And fortunately, in the United States, the Jews emigrated before the catastrophe in the early decades of the last century. And so in the United States, there was a lot of stuff. And then some very brave people had smuggled every kind of cultural material, even during the terrible times of the Second World War. So I found a lot of documentation, and I started to think about how I could transmit the heritage of this world, but not with that kind of nostalgia, very, well, there's a term in Yiddish that's known in the United States, schmaltzy. So nostalgia, very sugary, because I found it, I thought this was offensive. I tried to stage shows, not looking only at the past, but at the present and the future, using those materials and the mood, the spirituality of that world and my audience has always been not a Jewish audience of old people, but of all the ages, and mostly non-Jews, because in Italy, as probably you probably know, the Jews are really very few, 30,000, 35,000, not more. So, and I trusted that culture. I knew that the values, the spirituality, the dignity, the beauty of that culture could be for everyone, for every human being that had a soul ready to get the, let's say, the emotions from that world, and to receive, as I had received lessons for our life, for the present life, and for the future life. I was frankly successful. Of course, all of my shows were musical, with music. Impossible for me to perform shows without music. And Yiddish culture was my main, let's say, field of activity, but I had strong relationships with Greek culture too, but not the ancient one, the modern one. With that particular kind of music called rebetiko, amanedes. When I stage shows based on the poems of the great contemporary Greek poets, I used music too in that case too, because for me, the origin of theater was musical. There was no distinction, music, dance, theater. It was just one the theater of the ancient Greece, I think, was based on rhythms. The choirs, according to my opinion, were musical, rhythmical, and people danced on stage. And so I performed not many years ago, in 2015, Greek tragedy by Aeschylus, The Supplicants, in the ancient theater of Syracuse, where Aeschylus himself performed 2,500 years ago. And I performed there in Sicilian dialect and modern Greek, and the whole show was sang and musical. We had on stage musicians, and I performed this with another director and great artist, musician, singer, composer, whose name is Mario Incudine, a young chap. Well, I am 74. He has half of my age, but I believe strongly in alliance between generations. And so that performance, all musical, completely musical, and danced, was a huge success. And the most important specialist of ancient drama, Professor Oliver Taplin, who is teacher in Oxford, invited us in Oxford to perform, saying to me, finally, Aeschylus. Well, I don't like to, let's say, boast my merits and talents in general, but it was really a shock to me that such a scholar found in our performance in Sicilian and modern Greek the way to perform Aeschylus, because the invitation of Professor Taplin was, please do come to Oxford. Excuse me, do come to Oxford. So finally, I'll be able to show my students the way Aeschylus should be performed. So, all of my experience has been bound to reconnect performing arts, not only in the form of the opera, but in many possible forms. As, for example, I will be performing in Palermo in September, Survivor of Warsaw, Schoenberg's Survivor of Warsaw. So all the forms of performing with music, and you know, Francesco, because we have together, I had the privilege of performing with your fantastic MACH orchestra, l'Histoire du Soldat, Stravinsky's. It's a fantastic experience, because even performing, let's say, not singing, but just acting, but with the support of music is, how can I say, you know, is like eating spaghetti with tomato sauce and Parmesan cheese. It's perfect. And I spent the whole of my life even lecturing about these kind of experiences and emphasizing the great value of being always connected with music, because music is universal language that goes through any kind of boundary. Because a Neapolitan songs moves to tears any kind of person in Caucasian countries, the Maoris are moved in Australia, and Russians and Eskimos, and the same is with the great classical music, of course. And let's consider this: the blues is one of the forms of music, the base of jazz music together with the ballad. But blues is through rock music and all the evolutions, funky, grunge, I don't know, soul, etc., is the universal music of the youth all over the world, in every country. So music is extremely important. I spent a life against each kind of racism, discrimination, and nationalism. Love for your own country is a beautiful sentiment, but when it becomes nationalism, and nationalism asks that this love to become a weapon against other people of other nations. And I have fought the whole of my life against this. And music demonstrates that nationalism is just an evil ideology. So racism and every kind of this kind of hatred that that doesn't allow us to live in a peaceful world, a world of beauty, of harmony, etc., etc. So I spend my life with music, and this process to be connected with music will be with me till the last moment I'll have a breath to express myself. And when I speak, I try in some way to sing. You know, Franz Kafka said in his legendary speech about Yiddish language, said that in Yiddish is all music. Everything in this language is music. The voice of the cantor in synagogue, the quarrel between two old Jews that express themselves in that language, all of the Yiddish is humor, but especially music. Well, if you have some questions, I'm ready. Excuse me. I skipped the main thing, the problem of listening. Of course, I couldn't have done what I did without learning from others, without the richness I received from a lot of people. Some were masters to me. Some were, let's say, my, sometimes I miss words. I'm not used to speak so long, for so long time in English. Being my mentors, as you said. I have a lot of debts with these people, but not with politicians. I can look straight in the eyes every single person in this country. There is only one person that compares me to lower my eyes, my wife, but this is for other questions, as you could easily understand. But at least to listen, and to listen again. The capacity of listening, the capacity, the modesty necessary to listen deeply and to silence your voice frequently, to listen to other people's voice. And sometimes I received extraordinary lessons from very simple people, even from, let's say, not particularly beautiful shows, but there was something to learn. And so the capacity of listening, the capacity of um, being in the world, listening not only through ears, but through soul is extremely important, extremely important. And you can give to other people, especially young people, if you were given by someone. If you accepted to receive lessons, to receive teachings, it's fundamental. No one becomes a master if hasn't been in his own turn a good student.
Thank you, Moni. Thank you. It
You're
was
welcome.
really overwhelming, and as usual with you, it's so full of emotions, smells, colors, sounds. It's my way to feel when I'm together with you, when we do something together with, and when I listen to you. And what I want to ask to you, did were moments in your life where your cool, your let's say your motivation was put it under some proof, some challenges, some doubts? How did you pass through these moments, and how your talent, the listening was helping you in this process of life?
Oh, I received my first salary as performer when I was 17. I started to make my living from performing at 48. It was a long, long way, 31 years, to get to the point I had dreamed, I had desired through all my life. It has been very hard, because if you do not choose shortcuts to get to the point, if you don't practice bribery or those kind of forms to get to the point you want to reach, has been very, very hard. I made several, let's say I had several jobs. I taught in schools. I wrote for magazines and newspapers. I had been even, in Italy, we call them a pony rider, with motorbikes for post service, because I need to earn money. But I never gave up the idea. Never, never, ever I would have accepted to give up the idea. My parents were desperate, because they say to me, why don't you get you a serious job, a permanent job? You speak languages. You have your doctorate. Why? What are you doing? You're screwed up. You will finish your life sleeping under the bridges like the bums. But I knew what I wanted. And so I accepted to work and to have several jobs of any kind. I've been internal producer for a recording company. I worked in theaters to help other people's shows with music, as, let's say, a sort of very simple music consultant, because I have a I had from very young age musical culture, especially in those fields like traditional music. Thanks to that professor, Loris Rosenholz, that had really a huge amount of records of traditional music of every part of the world. Then my first maestro, Roberto Ledi, the ethnomusicologist, and then again other peoples that were moved by the fact that I was so passionate for things that in general were not the passion of other young people. So I attracted their curiosity. And so they wanted to help me and to teach me. And so when I was around 25, I had quite a knowledge of many forms of traditional music and avant-garde music. And so in the 30s, I could work as, I was not a composer, but I could suggest what kind of music when they didn't want music composed, but just from the records, background music, I helped. And then I helped certain theaters with when they had the problems of translation of text, and they had the Slavic languages, for example. I speak Bulgarian and Russian, so I helped them to find the right translation. So, you know, different things. In Yiddish, you called a man, as I have been, a Luftmensch, a little man of the air. The little man of the air is a man that has 35 jobs, but doesn't arrive with some money at the end of the month. This is the Luftmensch. Well, in Yiddish, you would translate that a loser, but I wasn't a loser. I've been always a winner that married the cause of the losers, because I have always been with the working class, with the minorities, with the gypsies, with the Palestinians. In spite of being Jew, I have supported the Palestinian rights, etc., etc. So I could be useful in different situations. You know, man of many trades, let's say. And so I made this living. Of course, there were times in which I went to watch some performance, and I say, but this is nothing special. What I'm doing is much better. Why can't I? Because I had not the shortcuts of having an important parent or relative, or coming from very wealthy milieu, or you know how it works in Italy. You know, Francesco. I wouldn't say those things, but it's like this. For example, now I'm very well known in this country. I received doctorates honoris causa, prizes, awards of any kind. I have been journalist. I wrote a lot of books too, especially about Jewish humor. I am considered the most important Italian specialist of this field. And so I became very, very known in the country. Often when I take a plane, I do not need to show my passport. When I get into the plane, they say, oh, there is no need, Mr. Ovadia. So, you know, but I have known the direction of a theater. Because in Italy, and not only, but especially it is all political. And I'm a free man. I am not in a party. I have strong political ideas, but not party membership. I do not want anything as a favor. What I receive, I want to receive it for my merits, not for my friendships or relationships. So there were very difficult moments. But then, and this is the message I give to the schools. Do not surrender to mediocrity. It's much more difficult to make your own way, but it's really full of satisfaction and of sense and of dignity. When you surrender to the favors, to the helps of interested people that wants to exploit you, it's really a terrible feeling. So I do not have the direction of a theater, even if many people think that I should have the direction not of one theater, but of more theaters. But I am not in the pockets of the politicians, and I will never be. And even when I supported leftist parties for the electoral campaigns, I never had membership. And when something to my eyes was wrong, I outspoke openly. This is a shit. Even to the ones for which I used to vote. So, but I'm very, very satisfied with myself, because when I look at myself in the mirror, I say, you're not something particularly great, you're not something special, but you're a decent man. And this is the masterpiece for a human being. When he is able to ask his parents or relatives, write on my grave, he has been a decent man. That's enough. In Yiddish, you say a mensch, a real human being, and not a parrot. With all due respect to parrots, of course, because I support animals' rights too. They are marvelous creatures. But anyway, I'm satisfied. And now, fortunately, there are little aisles of decency in this country too. And so I can make my performances, of course, with, I could have much more means to perform big shows, but from time to time, I get something like the supplicants. I had on stage in the ancient Teatro of Syracuse, 56 people. 42 were students of the theater school of the Institution of the Ancient Drama in Syracuse. And I spent 3 months of happiness in that country. Syracuse is one of the most beautiful spots in the universe. And with the young people, I had really, they gave me happiness, because those young actors or students to become actors were so disciplined, passionate, talented. It has been really a glorious experience.
Thank you, Moni. Thank you. I can imagine. If you have some questions for Moni, of course, or you have something to tell him, feel free to speak. Yeah.
It's not necessary. Yeah? It's not a doctor's prescription. Francesco, you can give my email. So if with time someone that, let's say, metabolizes my let's say, words in freedom, he can write to me. I will answer with a little amount of time, because I receive many stuff on WhatsApp and mail and so on, as we live in this world.
That's so generous from you, Moni. Thank you, really.
Thank you very much to everybody for listening or not listening, because it's, but I hope that the musical spirit in this planet will overcome stupidity, hatred, racism, all those forms of violence. And we have seen what music had done in Venezuela with the Sistema. All those kids that were bound to become street kids with a lot of problems could really achieve extraordinary things. So music is a fantastic language to overcome stupidity, because when you listen to a great concert, you do not ask yourself, nobody is Russian or is Italian or is African. It's marvelous. That's it. Okay. Take care, Francesco, you and all the chaps with you. And I hope we will work together again some other occasion. Yeah. And I will be, as you know, very, very glad. 20 years, huh? 20 years. 20 years is part of a life, very important. Hmm?
Yes,
you were very young, without gray hair. I had a lot of gray hair those, but now, yeah. How old are you, Francesco? How old are you?
I'm almost 44.
Well, you're a kid, my goodness. You're a kid, you have a whole life. I'll try to be in this earth for a long time, because I want to fight against the violence and the hatred, and to fight with my modest means for beauty and peace. Ciao.
Yeah. Ciao, Moni. Thank you so much. And I think you are doing that so much, and doing also these kind of things, meeting young generations and share your soul. And I want to tell you, when I called you to make this meeting, I was very carefully listening to your voice, which does not change since many, many years. And this is the source of youngness and beauty.
I want to give an information, because when I was 48, I had big problems with my voice. Of course, it's not a clean voice. It's very, but I thought I have to stop singing because I can't anymore. When I met two extraordinary ladies, Mariana Brilla, American ladies, Mariana Brilla and Lisa Paglin, they are specialists of the voice, not doctors. They were important opera singers in the past. They studied the problem of the voice and they make miracles. They have a studio that's called the New Voice Studio. If some singer listening to me and wants a miracle for his voice, those two ladies they rescued my voice and rescued my life with a sweetness and with a capacity, something really. I defined them the Einsteins of the voice. Take care, you all. Excuse me for the publicity, but it's not for my earnings. It's for the sake of the problems with the voice that are really tragic for singers and in general for persons, because you get the personality of a human being from voice. Ciao, you all. Take care. Bye.
Ciao, Moni. Thank you so
Ciao.
much. Bye. So, thank you, everybody. And it has been really, really a special project to all of us, I think, to me particularly. Yes, now I see you all much better. It has been a difficult choice to do this academy online altogether. Since, as everybody, we passed this month of lockdown in many different moods, state of mind, emotions, and I'm sure, like you, we passed through different ideas in how to develop and go on. So then it became clear that we could have not meet this year together. It was not possible physically, but we decided to do in this way. And so I'm very, very happy that you all participated to this moment. And I want also to thank you, the public, which is following us on YouTube and which is close to the festival. It is very important for us to be all together, to share these ideas, these thoughts, this way to believe in the music, to believe that the music is something very important for the human beings and for the life in general. It's fundamental, and it's something which is for the life. It's a nourishment for the life. So we thank you all. With the MACH Academy musicians, we continue without the live on YouTube. So we say hello to everybody on YouTube. And yeah, see you next year in Colico all together. Bye.